Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3739 AM. Today's date is September 25th, 2025, and the title of the episode is Trump's Appointee is revising Basel III Endgame. Currency market is being restructured. What I find very interesting, that 1 in 4 low-income households spend 15% or more of their income on energy bills. This leaves many families having to decide between putting food on the table or paying their power bills. Since 2022, retail electricity costs have increased faster than the rate of inflation. This is why I use this magical little device and would never go a month without it. It is state-of-the-art energy-saving tool that minimizes dirty electricity and environmental impact. This gadget can be effortlessly connected to any regular electrical socket and employs advanced technology to oversee and fine-tune energy usage in your household. By scrutinizing and modifying the electric current, it can notably diminish the quantity of energy consumed by your home appliances and gadgets without impairing their effectiveness or operation, and help support lowering your energy bills. Do your wallet a favor and grab one while it's on sale now for up to 60% off only at don'twastepower.com before your next pricey power bill comes in. Plus, if you order now, you'll also get a 60-day 100% money-back guarantee and several other bonuses. Once again, that deal is only at don'twastepower.com or click the link in the description. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see now that Trump, every step of the way, he's changing the central bank economy. And every step of the way, he's putting every single piece in place to make sure when the time is right and he throws the switch, we move into the people system. And to do this, we need to make sure that we can actually fund the government. We need to make sure that we're no longer taking the funds from we the people, that all the external revenue is coming from the outside. We need to make sure that energy is very, very cheap. And we need to prop up the current currency to transition us into the new currency. And we need to start putting certain things into place to make sure that the new currency can support the new economic system. And I do believe that's exactly what Trump is doing right now. And you can see every step of the way, he's doing this step by step. It's almost like, and we talked about this before, when the central bankers went ahead and took us off the gold standard and they brought us into the petrodollar system, they made sure that everything was set up and they made sure that everything was ready to go. Now, they didn't care if the country and the world went into a recession. They didn't care if people lost their wealth. They didn't care about that. They just wanted to make sure that their system was ready to go and they were able to transition us. Trump, he's doing something a little bit different. He's making sure that he doesn't hurt the people's wealth. He doesn't hurt the economic system. And he's trying to transition us into a new system without really bucking the old system. Now, is it all going to be absolutely perfect? No, there'll be bumps along the way. But I think in the grand scheme of everything, I think, yes, he's going to make it as smooth as possible to shift us into the new system. And yes, this is going to entail revaluing gold. It's actually entails stabilizing the Federal Reserve note. It entails creating a crypto reserve. And with everything else that he's doing, he needs to put everything else in place. So it looks like we're heading in that direction, and he's dismantling the Biden administration's, the central bank's system that they were trying to introduce. That was the Green New Scam, the Great Reset, central bank digital currency, you name it. He is now reversing all of this. And this is how you know that what the Biden administration, the central bank was doing was not for the benefit of the people. Remember, they did a very big push in the very, very beginning saying we're going into the Green New Scam. They didn't call it the Green New Scam, of course. But this was really the Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with inflation. It had to do with the Green New Scam. And they were pushing everyone into electric vehicles. They wanted to get rid of oil, gas, natural gas, nuclear energy. They wanted us to go directly into solar, windmills, and everyone using electric vehicles and charging up batteries. So basically, they just said, you know what? How are we going to force people into this? Well, it's almost like they forced people into Obamacare. Back then, what they did was, listen, if you don't take it, you're going to be penalized. You're going to be taxed. And you know what happened when people weren't taxed anymore? People said, I'm not taking it. I don't want Obamacare. So, what do you think is happening now with the EV market? If there was true demand and if people truly wanted an electric vehicle, it would be like when the iPhone came out. You didn't need any tax credit. Everyone stood online to get the iPhone because there was demand. Everybody wanted it. You think there's going to be people standing in line to get the electric vehicles? Even if they brought the price down, people still wouldn't stand in line to get the electric vehicle. There is no demand. This is why they had to offer a $7,500 tax credit. They could have offered a $15,000 tax credit. I don't think it would have made a difference. Remember, this is the government subsidizing something that they want to push. And now the automobile manufacturers are realizing, oh, wow, look at this. There's no demand for this electric vehicle. And the tax credit's running out. So we're not going to produce them anymore. If there was truly demand, they would say, screw the tax credit. Look how many people want this. People are standing online to get this thing. But they were barely making it with the $7,500 tax credit. This should tell you everything you need to know. And once again, if the electric vehicle was so great, everyone would want it. And remember, everyone doesn't want it. Everyone would like to have a choice. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with electric vehicles. I know a lot of people that have them. And they love driving them around town. They also have a gas-powered car because they said, I will not take this on long distances. I'd rather take my gas-powered car. So once again, you can see the demand, it's not there. And you're going to see a lot of automakers, they're basically going to do an about face. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're saying, okay, we're kind of done with this. They'll limit production and they'll transfer everything into a gas-powered car. As fuel gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, people are going to say, you know something? I'd rather just have a gas-powered car. Why do you think the Biden administration was raising the oil prices, the gas prices? Because they were trying to force everyone into the electric vehicle, but their plan did not work. Hey, you know what's interesting? Sometimes you buy a watch just to tell time, but this one tells a story. The Trump wristwatch, black steel band, bold, solid red face, it's sharp, it's strong, and it stands out. But more than that, every time you check the time, it's a little reminder that the truth still matters. In a world where everyone's trying to spin you, this watch is like carrying a compass that points you back to what's real. And hey, let's be honest, it looks good. It honestly goes with everything. Dress it up or keep it casual. For some, it's a daily piece you'll wear proudly. For others, it's perhaps something you'll hold on to as a collector's items, a reminder of this moment in time, and what a time to be alive, right? Either way, it's not just a watch, it's a statement of what you believe in. It's the kind of thing you'll be glad you've got when someone asks, where were you when all of this was happening? You can just point to your wrist and say, right here, keeping track. So yeah, sure, it tells the time, but also it tells a story, one that represents the truth. And these days, that feels even more valuable. Get yours today at the magaoffers.com/X22Red, or click the link in the description below the video, and you'll get a nice discount just for being a loyal listener of our show. Thank you. And everything that they've been trying to do is not going to work. And you can see everything that Trump is doing right now. He is now planning, he's preparing, and he's setting everything up to shift us away from the central bank system. And I do believe in the end, as he continually weans us off of the central bank system, the central bank is going to get weaker and weaker and weaker. And soon, what's going to happen, it won't matter what the central bank does. I mean, right now, they're controlling the interest rates, but eventually, it's not going to matter what they do. Trump, in the end, will have all the leverage. And now he's setting it up to make sure that gold, is revalued. Gold is set up where we can detach it from the paper markets, and gold most likely will end up destroying the Fed. Why do I say this? Well, it looks like during the Biden administration, we had the Biden administration pushing the Basel III Endgame. And basically, it wasn't shifting us towards gold. It was shifting us away from gold into the central bank digital currency. That's what Biden was trying to do. Trump has his appointee in there now, and she is now doing the opposite, which is very, very interesting. We'll be talking about that in just a sec. But what's very interesting is that the gold demand, it's continually surging right now. The Kobisi letter on X put this out and said, global gold ETF holdings rose by 27 tons on Friday, the biggest daily increase since January 2022. This is double the daily average seen so far this year. As a result, gold-backed ETFs increased by 0.9%, the largest single-day percentage gain since 2022. Gold prices are now on track for their sixth consecutive weekly gain, the longest streak since February. Meanwhile, daily options volume on the largest silver ETFs, SLV, spiked to 1.2 million shares on Friday, the highest since April 2024. Precious metals are making history, and that is absolutely true. And the other thing that we could see before we get to Basel III is that the numbers now for GDP, unemployment, and everything else, they're being revised, especially for GDP. And it's showing that GDP is much, much higher than the Biden administration and those people working in the BLS that were part of the Biden administration were telling us. Eric Doherty put this out and said, yet another stunning blow to the experts. Quarter two GDP revised higher again to plus 3.8%. First, they said it was 3, then 3.3%. Now it's 3.8%. And once again, you can see the economy is doing a lot better than they want anyone to know. Remember, Trump and the Patriots, what they've been doing is they've been bringing us out of the recession that we've been in. Biden, the Fed, the deep state players, they pushed us into a recession, and they never expected Trump to move so quickly. They never expected him to create the parallel economic system. They never expected him to make so many deals right off the bat. They never expected him to bring all these manufacturers and all the investments back to this country. And now Trump is moving this to the next level. The Federal Reserve's top regulatory official said that the bank agencies are poised to unveil a more industry-friendly version of the contentious capital rules known as Basel III Endgame by the end of 2025 and early 2026. So the original proposal, advanced under the Biden administration in 2023, was scrapped earlier in 2025 amid fierce pushback from the banking industry, which argued it would impose unjustified hikes in capital requirements, potentially up to 20% or more for large banks, hampering lending and economic growth. Gee, I wonder what they were trying to do. Were they trying to down the economy? Most likely, yes. Bauman, an appointee by Trump, described the redo as an effort to right-size these requirements for larger banks, making regulation more effective and efficient without weakening safety standards. Now, will this affect gold? Yes. The Basel III Endgame revisions are broadly viewed as positive for gold, potentially boosting demand for physical gold as a reserve asset. Under the updated framework, physical gold is reclassified as Tier 1 asset equivalent to cash or U.S. Treasuries with a 0% risk weighting. This allows banks to count 100% of their market value toward their liquidity and capital reserves, a significant upgrade from its prior Tier 3 status. As a result, banks may shift away from the paper gold, like derivatives. Very interesting. Toward physical holdings to meet requirements more efficiently, which would drive up gold prices and accelerate a gold basket reset in bank liquidity. Gold is not explicitly classified as high-quality liquid asset for stress testing purposes. Though its Tier 1 treatment still enhances its appeal, the revisions, right-sizing, could amplify this if they reduce overall capital pressure, encouraging more gold allocation. So it looks like it's all set up for gold. And I do believe what Trump is doing right now is he's basically restructuring the currency market and allowing banks to take this Tier 1 gold asset and keep it on the books. So basically, they want banks to shift away from the paper gold like derivatives. And we know the derivative market is a disaster in the waiting right now. And I do believe he's going to force the banks into moving away from the paper market and actually taking on physical gold. Now, will this also apply to silver? Most likely, yes. So we could see that he is now putting certain things into place a little bit at a time, and he's actually going against the central bank system. And you have to remember the central bank system set all this up from the very, very beginning. So I do believe what he's preparing is he's preparing the gold market. And I do believe he's going to restructure the entire currency market in the end. Because once again, we know that the central bankers, they use the paper market to do what? To manipulate the gold. They've been doing this for a very long time. They understand how gold works. And you have to remember the central bank goes back thousands of years. So basically, I think Trump wants to revalue gold. He wants gold to start to move up. And as it continually moves higher and higher and higher, and I do believe it's going to get very, very close to Bitcoin. I'm not saying it's going 100,000, but it will probably go to 20, 30, 40, 50,000 in the end. And when you do something like this, well, I do believe this will then counter the Federal Reserve note. And think about it. Everything that Trump is putting together right now, when you look at the tariff system, when you look at the gold card, when you look at the drilling for oil and the sale of energy and the sale of technology, and now with this Basel III Endgame, where he's trying to detach gold from the paper market, I do believe this is all being done on purpose for one reason and one reason only. It's to shift us away from the Federal Reserve. It's to shift the entire country back into the Constitution so we once again have sound money. Remember, the deep state players, they shift us away from the Constitution. And actually, if you really look at it, from the very, very beginning, their entire plan was always to shift us away from the Constitution. They hate the Constitution. They hate that we have rights. And this has been their plan all along. And if you can control the currency, you can control those people in government, because controlling the currency and having a system, a centralized system that allows you to just create currency, creates corruption. And if you can create corruption, you can install the people that will do exactly what you want them to do. And this is exactly what happened in this country. When you remove the ability to create currency out of thin air and you have a finite amount of currency, it's very, very difficult to create the corruption. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but you just can't borrow and borrow and borrow because, again, you don't have unlimited funds. You just can't create it out of thin air, which means they can't create all these programs. They can't launder the money. They can't do all these things that they've been doing. It pretty much shuts it all down. And this is why Trump, I do believe, is moving in this direction to basically bring us back to the Constitution, bring us back to the sound money system that we once had, which will eventually increase our buying power. It will remove the wealth confiscation, and the people, they can work and they'll be able to keep everything that they make. And what's very interesting is that Friedrich Hayek said something very interesting. He says, and Bitcoin Magazine put this out, by the way, I don't believe we shall ever have good money again before we take it out of the hands of government. We can take it violently. All we can do is by some sly, roundabout way, introduce something they can't stop. So what can be introduced instead of having violence, instead of having bloodshed? What can be introduced that slowly removes the ability of the central bank to keep their currency? Maybe that is Bitcoin, because you have to remember, Bitcoin was created back in 2008. Maybe it was created before that, but that's when it was introduced in 2008. And slowly but surely, I do believe we can probably shift this entire system away from the central bank by combining Bitcoin and gold. So we don't need violence. We don't need war. We could just do it and say, you know something? Everything's been set up. The central bank, as everyone can see, is not benefiting the people. Trump is going to prove this to the American people. And I do believe he's getting ready and prepared to shift us into the new system where people do not lose their wealth. We can maintain the value of the currency, and we can remove the Federal Reserve in the end. Because think about it, as he weans us off the Federal Reserve, as he removes the people paying the income tax and the external revenue is paying for the debt, it relieves the pressure on the people. And the central bank loses the control over the people. As Trump continually creates the other economic system, he'll have the market decide what the rates will be for borrowing. The central bank will no longer decide the rate for borrowing. That's how it used to be. So every step of the way, Trump will be weaning the people, weaning the government off the Federal Reserve. And as he keeps bringing in more and more money via the parallel economic system, we won't have to borrow from the Federal Reserve. So if we're not borrowing from the Federal Reserve, they're not collecting money from we the people, they're not actually dictating what the rate should be, What are they? We don't need them. They can't threaten anyone. And Trump then has full leverage over it all. And I do believe this is where this is all headed. And you can see every step of the way, he's making sure we're going down this path. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.